I have been wrong about the new Balance Druid in Midnight. This spec is the best example for looks can be deceiving, to the point that I'm surprised it's even making the cut and being shipped the way it is. It has a bunch of talent changes, but the biggest thing has to be the Eclipse change. This video is sponsored by our Patreons, for which we are super grateful for. Patreon.com/Marcelian&Flame if you enjoy our content and want to support us make more videos that you can like. You can get a custom-made wallpaper with your character on it as well. Back to Boomkin. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the new Eclipse. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of small talent changes as well, but most are passive and not really worth talking about. Eclipse, however, is now a spell on your bars that you activate, and the way you choose which Eclipse it is will be by casting either Wrath or Starfire just before. Whichever the last of these two spells was cast, the Eclipse will turn into its respective type, so Solar Eclipse for Wrath and Lunar for Starfire. You'll also have 2 charges of it on a 30-second cooldown. What this does is to take the monotonous playstyle of Balance and give you deliberate damage windows that will spice up your gameplay, instead of Eclipse just being more or less your default state of being, which has been the case for the last, 3 expansions. This also helps the devs make individual eclipses stronger, since the total uptime will be reduced to what they mentioned to be around 60% of your total combat time. Not sure if we hit that mark yet, but I can tell you 100% this is way more fun as a playstyle for Balance. To go with this, the Mastery Astral Invocation has been changed, which also makes the rotation and concept of the spec way easier. Now, the Mastery will just increase your nature damage and arcane damage by a certain percentage based on your rating. What this means is you won't have to have your Moonfire and Sunfire on every target to actually get the damage in. That doesn't mean you shouldn't, they are still a very strong core aspect of your gameplay, but your damage isn't reliant on you dotting everything every time. A bunch of talents have been moved around, and some even made capstones, like Umbral Embrace, which doesn't seem to work as well with the new Eclipse system, since you could just get a proc of it and have it drop before you even get into your next Eclipse to consume it. One new interesting talent is Total Eclipse, which gives your Eclipse's spell a 10 to 20% chance to trigger both types of Eclipse effects at the same time. This will make your occasional Eclipses kind of like a celestial alignment, but without the stat boosts. Since your DPS cooldowns are very flexible, you can use this to punch in more burst damage whenever it happens, or simply enjoy the RNG jackpot you do, giving the spec some, and I cannot believe I'm actually saying this, much needed RNG. For the last few expansions, Balance has been the most predictable spec in the game. At times that can be a good thing, but it can also become monotonous and uninteresting. Another interesting new talent is Meteor Storm. This makes Starfall deal its damage 100% faster in situations where you are questing, farming easy content, or doing dungeons where stuff just dies way too quick. This is an alternative to take where your damage is just packed into a shorter window. Meteorites is also a new talent that does something similar, where Starfall procs little tiny astral damage events. This puts more emphasis on the Starfall damage rather than just on dot ramping that can usually take up to 30 seconds to get your engines going to full blast. Not a fan of passive damage, but this is an optional node that works great in low-level content. Lastly, also accomplishing a similar thing will be 2 talents with Touch of Cosmos and Hail of Stars. Touch the Cosmos gives you a chance to make your spenders free, while Hail of Stars makes those free spenders proc more accelerated damage in a 3-second window. If you play things like Orbit Breaker, which hasn't been meta for years, fair, you can actually spike your damage way more often. This might not be the best way to play in super high-end dungeons and raids, but for delves and low-level dungeons, this should improve your overall performance. Elun's challenge also adds a spin to your rotation when it comes to the consumption of your Astral Power. This one rewards you for spending, ideally, all of your Astral Power during your Eclipse windows by making your Wraths and Starfires faster to cast for the next 15 seconds or for however long it takes you to get into your next Eclipse. These types of talents are what we call good habit rotational talents. Essentially, they tell you how to correctly play your spec without actually being there next to you and shouting the buttons in your ears. We do still get ramping talents regardless in the new capstone Harmony of the Heavens, which makes your spenders in your eclipses increase the damage bonus it provides. This would be yet another good rotation habit talent since it implies you want to pool Astral Power before going into an eclipse, so you can immediately spam your spenders and get to max stacks of this buff as soon as possible. We can talk about the Apex talents here since they do influence your playstyle a bit, not just by themselves, but by the context of your hero talents and general builds. The only impactful Apex talent is the first one. They are all called Ascendant Eclipses, by the way, and all specs have all nodes named the same. For now, I guess this is the theme of the Apex talents. Activating Eclipse makes your next generator instant. This feels way better in AoE considering Starfire is such a long cast time spell, but it does mean to go into an Eclipse and keep a chunk of Astral Power generation in your chamber to fire the second you need it. The other effect makes your next 3 spenders stronger, with the 2 Apex talent nodes remaining, making your crits inside of your Eclipse apply a dot on enemies for more damage, while the last one makes bolts of solar or lunar energy fire at enemies. This last one is just damage with a nice visual flair, but no real synergy with the spec, while the crit dot is an old mechanic we used to have, repurposed and repackaged into the devs wanting you to play crit as a stat. Nothing game breaking, but the instant generator is nice since you will have a lot of instant spells suppressed, making you into what's likely the most mobile caster in the game. Between your instant Starfires in AoE, of course, that gives you a really large chunk of Astral Power, your spenders that have a plethora of cost reduction talents and free procs, you will hardly ever stop the hard cast. On top of all of this, with Keeper of the Grove, you add Trance to the mix, while the Loon's Chosen cooldown reduction talent makes your Fury of a Loon or New Moon really frequent, and we will get to New Moon in a hot second. Don't overthink it too much though. The playstyle is still the same. You just do the same things slightly different. You still want to spread your dots as much as you can with Moonfire and Sunfire. You still want to not cap your Astral Power by spending it on Star Surges and Star Falls. And use your DPS cooldowns before you waste their recharge time, which now include your Eclipse charges as well. And you want to time them so they can align whenever you need that damage most. Having charges on Eclipse and Celestial Alignment with short burst cooldowns from your hero talents gives you something cool to do every 20 to 30 seconds. Let me tell you about some cool builds I play with live in front of our chat that saw me actually go from a Boomkin hater to a chicken enjoyer. Okay, that was kind of fun. Actually, I'm starting to like it more and more. Oh, our live stream is twitch.tv/Marcelian&Flame. You can catch me do this stuff among other WoW things, chatting and ranting about good and bad game design, while also getting attacked by viewers almost daily. It's so fun. No, really, it's not toxic at all. I'm not sad. Because there are no damage meters and no online guys to tell me I am doing something wrong, I went ahead and played Keeper of the Grove in one of the alpha dungeons, and it would have had to be the best balanced gameplay I have played in recent years. Probably ever. The 60 seconds Convoke with the 1 minute Force of Nature, occasional Orbit Breaker procs, and so many free or instant cast spells, I had something to do every pack. And note here, these are follower dungeons that are really easy to do with things dying super quick, and still I felt like everything I did mattered and I wasn't forced to ramp and then see everything dead before I could actually do anything. Having my Trance Moonfire for me, which is not a new thing, lowered the number of globals I had to spend on just dotting everything. And with a Convoke added to the mix, there was never a dull moment. Elun's Chosen had a different feel to it with this build. With Elun, it felt like I had too much to do, and that was mostly because I opted to take New Moon. I understand it has been inferior to Fury of Elun for a lot of years now, but I assume the idea is to balance these out at one point where anything can work, since the hero talents are already buffing New Moon as it is. Together with Lunation as a hero talent, the cooldown reduction on New Moon was so ridiculous I barely had time to cast Starfires. Maybe this is what the design will have to address to fit in New Moon, a playstyle where the generators swap from the normal ones to the New Moon phases from this talent, which can be an interesting change of playstyle that actually removes the number of buttons you would have to press. Paradoxically, I mean. One personal change I would like to see made to this playstyle, to make it simpler and even more approachable, is for any or all of the moons to apply Moonfire to enemies it hits. Between Convoke, New Moon charges, free Starfalls, instant Starfires, I had so much Astral Power that I could just take a bunch of it home to the kids. I was also pressing way too many buttons. It felt good, really good, but I can see how it can be intimidating at the worst of times or inefficient performance-wise at the best. Pumping damage into moon casts when it could be an instant Fury of Elun takes away potential damage you would have otherwise spent on Starfire, while still having a powerful spell to benefit from Elun's chosen hero talents. That's likely one of the biggest weaknesses of the New Moon playstyle, or what would otherwise be a new and fresh rotation for balance. Well, not that new, this has been a talent since Legion, but seldom played. I cannot believe how much fun I had playing Balance, and it had to do with just having spells to press that are not just the same two generators and spenders. In this era of simplifying everything, I have a feeling Balance might be gutted down further, which would be a shame, because on the face of it, it's just as simple as it always has been. I just choose to play some spells we never played before, on top of adding Eclipse as a castable DPS cooldown. Some talents still feel a bit too bland and passive, but maybe that's what we need to take away complexity and turn it into cool gameplay moments that anyone can enjoy. It and Elemental are legit some of the best pruning yet engaging casters I have played, and luckily we have already released the Elemental video out for you to check. To this day, I think Elemental Shaman is the perfect version of a simplified DPS spec that veterans can also enjoy.